WrestleMania, Roman Reigns, and the freaking undisputed WWE Universal World Heavyweight, it's a really long name, Championship. What's the situation? What's going down? Is Roman going to lose the titles? Is he going to face The Rock? All this stuff. I'm fantasy booking it the way I would do it. Let's get into this video. Alright, what is up guys, Noah Nation here, back again, and yes, in this video, we're going to be fantasy booking Roman Reigns' road to WrestleMania. I should probably pull up my notes, that would be a good idea. Okay, now that I got my notes back up, Roman Reigns going into WrestleMania. There's coincidentally been a lot of talk, and I was going to honestly plan on making this video anyway, but coincidentally, there's been a lot of talk on what Roman Reigns' situation is going to be at WrestleMania regarding the championships, regarding his match versus The Rock. WWE evidently doesn't want Roman Reigns to be pinned. They are interested in having the titles on the line versus him and The Rock. All this stuff, it's all over the place, so I will start with that, and then we'll move into my fantasy booking. Rock versus Roman Reigns. If it happens, does not need to be for any championship, nor the WWE or WWE Universal Championship, excuse me, but that match sells itself. Rock versus Cena 2 didn't need the title, even though they had the title anyway. Rock versus Hogan back in the day didn't need the title either, and it was one of the biggest matches of all time, best matches in WrestleMania history, all that stuff. Roman versus Rock sells itself. It does not need to be for the championship. Or what motive does The Rock have coming back to contest Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship, other than the fact that, hey, Roman, you've beaten everybody, what about me? I think there's this story can run deeper than just a championship matchup. This match does not need to be for either championship if it happens. So that was my idea, booking this here and fantasy booking it. How would I get the championships off of Roman Reigns, and how would I get to Rock versus Roman without it having to be a championship match like the WWE may want it to be? And I really hope that's not what we get. If we get Roman versus Rock, it's not finalized. Rock may be too busy for WrestleMania. We might get something else, which would be most likely Roman versus Cody Rhodes, which I think would be great. And if that is the case, then my alternate situation of what I fantasy booked here would basically just be the video I made last week, which you guys can go check it out, which would be merging the WWE and Universal Championships. Roman takes that into Mania to fight Cody, and we get a new World Heavyweight Championship as the new Raw World title. So that's what I would do there. But Rock versus Roman, if it happens, here's how I would get to point A to point B, fantasy booking it. Let's get into it. So Extreme Rules, Roman Reigns obviously not going to be at Crown Jewel. I assume he'll be at, since it's, big show in Saudi Arabia. Then after that comes Survivor Series. So in the build to Survivor Series is when I would really kick off this story of taking the titles off of Roman Reigns. Survivor Series being built around Raw versus SmackDown the last several years. I don't know if that's where they're going to go this year, but let's just say that's where they're going to go. I wouldn't be surprised if that's where we're heading, another Raw versus SmackDown type Survivor Series. And here's the thing, I think Raw versus SmackDown has been used as a crutch, a lazy booking crutch for the old regime in WWE. But if they want to do Raw versus SmackDown this year, I'll give it a chance if they add some stakes, which we'll get to. Just remember that. So we will add some stakes to the Survivor Series match. And I didn't book the whole Survivor Series card, but the one that plays into the championships here. So just remember that. We're going to touch on that later. So in the build to Survivor Series, I would straight up just have Triple H come out there, man. Everybody knows he's the man in charge. Send him out there. Ronda Rousey beat up Adam Pearce. He's off television right now. Send Triple H out there on the road to Survivor Series. It could be right after Crown Jewel, because I believe Crown Jewel is November 5th, 6th, something like that, like the first week of November, and then Survivor Series is at the end of the month. So obviously you have to do this pretty fast to give yourself, enough time for build. So I would do it on the Raw or SmackDown, most likely SmackDown, after Survivor Series, or after Crown Jewel, excuse me. I would have Triple H come to the ring and announce, like, listen, Roman, SmackDown versus Raw is the way to go for Survivor Series, but you are holding both championships. There's no other champion for you to face like you have done in the last few years, where you faced Big E and you faced Drew McIntyre. There's no other world champion for you to face because you hold both the SmackDown and Raw World Championship. So instead of Raw versus SmackDown for you, Roman, in a World Championship sense, you're going to be defending the WWE Championship, the title that is specific to Monday Night Raw, against a Raw opponent at Survivor Series. So it still is SmackDown versus Raw at Survivor Series, but it'll be specifically for Roman's WWE Championship, which is the Raw title. So how would we determine Roman Reigns' opponent for Survivor Series? I would have an 8-man tournament on Monday Night Raw in the weeks leading up to Survivor Series, and no, I did not book out the whole tournament, only the part at the end that matters here. And in the finals of said tournament would be Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. Two guys who have a lot of history with Roman Reigns, more recently for Kevin Owens, but Seth Rollins has that matchup against Roman Reigns earlier this year at the Royal Rumble, where he won by disqualification. A lot of unfinished business there, unfinished business with Kevin Owens, so I'd have those two in the finals of this tournament. And I would have this matchup go to a result of a double countout. And before anything can get finalized, who's going to Survivor Series? Is it Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn? Why did I say Sami Zayn? Is it Seth Rollins? Is it both? Whatever. The Bloodline hits the ring. The Usos, Solo Sikoa, lay out Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins on Monday Night Raw. And we just get left with no answer by the end of that Monday Night Raw. We still don't know who's going to Survivor Series. Is it Kevin Owens or is it Seth Rollins? Triple H would then appear that Friday night on SmackDown in a segment with the Bloodline and say, listen, Roman, I was ready to restart Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins so we could get you one opponent for Survivor Series, but since you wanted to send the Bloodline out there unannounced to lay out both men, punishment is to be served. At Survivor Series, it won't just be you versus one Raw competitor, it'll be you versus two Raw competitors against Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins in a triple threat match for the WWE Championship. So we get to November the 26th in Boston for Survivor Series with Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns for the Raw WWE Championship. And in that matchup, Seth Rollins would pin Kevin Owens to become the new WWE Champion. So we remove the WWE Championship off of Roman Reigns without having to pin Roman Reigns. The reason being he was only defending the Raw Championship because it is a Raw versus SmackDown show. He loses the WWE Championship, doesn't have to get pinned. Seth Rollins takes the WWE Championship to Monday Night Raw. And remember what I said about the Survivor Series Raw vs. SmackDown theme having stakes this year, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So earlier the night before the WWE Championship match, and I would have this kind of stipulation in all the matches that end up being Raw vs. SmackDown, something in there for all of them, but specifically the one I'm talking about here, the men's traditional Survivor Series matchup, 5-on-5, Team Raw versus Team SmackDown. The incentive that isn't just brand supremacy is that whoever is the sole survivors for their team will win earn a future World Championship match for their brand. So if anybody from Raw is the sole survivor of this match, whether it's one person or the whole team, anybody is getting a WWE Championship match. Same goes for SmackDown in the sense of they would be getting a Universal Championship match. So they're fighting for their shows, but they're also fighting for future championship opportunities. Now, I didn't book out every single person in this match because it just wasn't, relevant to the, situation here, but I would have Drew McIntyre representing Friday Night SmackDown be the sole survivor. Maybe you can have somebody else by McIntyre's side as well and they just lose to Roman on a SmackDown or something, but Drew McIntyre, I think just him being the sole survivor makes him look like $1 million. So Drew McIntyre wins the matchup for SmackDown as the sole survivor, therefore earning himself another Universal Championship opportunity. So I would have Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns one more time for the WWE Universal Championship at Day 1 on January the 1st in Atlanta, and I would have that match, and I know we have a pay-per-view for this, but screw it. In that matchup would be a Hell in the Cell. Why is this Hell in the Cell? Because, listen, McIntyre knows we've been down this road before, Roman Reigns. I know you're going to try to send the Usos out here. I know you're going to try to send Solo Sikoa out here. I want you one-on-one when nobody can interfere. Me and you, Hell in a Cell at Day 1. So we got that matchup, but now, this is the Bloodline we're talking about, so after a hellacious matchup, and I would, send McIntyre and Reigns out there, have them do the best match they've ever freaking did, beat the shit out of each other, especially McIntyre putting the hurt on Roman Reigns to make him look even more vulnerable and just wary to defeat by the end of this matchup. Now, this is the Bloodline we're talking about, so I would have the Usos and Solo Sikoa make their way down to the ring, beat up the referees that's, guarding the cage or whatever, break open the lock, and the Bloodline breaks into the Hell in a Cell, start beating the hell out of Drew McIntyre. When Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn make their way down to the ring to make the save. And yes, I say Sami Zayn. I would have the situation with Sami Zayn leaving the Bloodline and joining up with Kevin Owens happen before Day 1. I mean, we're talking in September here. That is until January 1st. A lot of time, a lot of story to tell there. I would have that situation take place prior to the Day 1 pay-per-view. So by now, Sami Zayn is out of the Bloodline. He's aligned himself with Kevin Owens again. So Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn make their way down there with steel chairs in hand, clean house on the Usos and Solo Sikoa. So I'd have Owens and Zayn lay out those three. Roman Reigns, though, rising from the ashes, spears Kevin Owens, and then we're left with Roman and Sami Zayn face-to-face inside Hell in the Cell. A lot of story has taken place between these two guys with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline, and now they're just meeting inside Hell in the Cell in these circumstances in the middle of this matchup. Obviously, it's no disqualification, so it really doesn't matter if the ref sees this or not because it's Hell in a Cell, so it doesn't matter. They're face to face. Kevin Owens dragging his body after he just got speared. Cocks Roman Reigns with a low blow from behind. Roman Reigns sells into the corner just like that. Sami Zayn builds up, emotion on his face. He's been waiting to do this for a long time. I wouldn't have it happen until this point. Haluva kick to Roman Reigns, laying his ass out. Roman sells out of the corner. McIntyre's right there. Future shock DDT on Roman Reigns. Does not go for the pinfall. Goes right into the corner. Loads up for the Claymore. Hits Roman Reigns with the Claymore kick. Drew McIntyre pins Roman Reigns. And yes, earlier we talked about WWE not wanting to pin Roman Reigns before WrestleMania. Here's the thing. Roman's gonna have to, if the match, can I talk? If the match with The Rock at WrestleMania isn't going to be for the championship, which I prefer it not be, he needs to lose these titles. I found a way to get the WWE Championship off him. You can't have the same exact situation, though, for the Universal Champion, or yeah, for the Universal Championship, excuse me. The only other thing you could do would be to have Austin Theory cash in, and then, you know, fail to cash in, or McIntyre pins Theory, or Theory pins McIntyre in a situation like this, saying if it happened in this matchup. But, like, I don't see Austin Theory anywhere near the World Championship picture anytime soon. I think it's too soon still. And honestly, why rush the cash in when you have till July to cash in that briefcase? Maybe he'll be more ready after a potential matchup with John Cena at WrestleMania. Now, granted, and I'm just kind of thinking about this on the fly, if that were to happen, let's say, Theory cashes in the Money in the Bank briefcase to become the Universal Champion in some kind of situation where he doesn't pin Roman Reigns, so a triple threat match, whether it's Drew McIntyre or not, Theory theoretically then could take the title into WrestleMania to defend it against John Cena. And Cena could win his 17th world title. I should have wrote that down. That's a good idea. You know what? Either way, the situation works out here because we're getting the title off of Roman Reigns. But that is the idea if you don't want to pin Roman Reigns. I just thought about that on the spot. I think it's a damn good idea. There's another idea. I'm just throwing it out there. Realistically, though, either way, whether it's McIntyre pinning Roman Reigns so Roman Reigns does get pinned, or whether it's an Austin Theory cash-in where he pins the other guy in the triple threat match that he would make a triple threat match, Roman walks away from day one not with the Universal Championship anymore. So he's like, obviously fed up. He enters the Royal Rumble. He makes it down to the final two with Cody Rhodes, who I would, of course, have come back, win the Royal Rumble, and go on to WrestleMania. And then, I mean, from there, Roman Reigns versus The Rock really writes itself. You could literally just have Roman out there venting on SmackDown one week. I got screwed out of this title, screwed out of this title, screwed out of the Royal Rumble. I'm the freaking Tribal Chief. I want my respect. Acknowledge me. I want the main event of WrestleMania. Send The Rock out there. Bicker. Set up Rock versus Roman Reigns for WrestleMania, and you're good to go. And then through those ideas, I present to you, you know, some of the main matches for WrestleMania, which would be The Rock versus Roman Reigns non-title, Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins, concluding their rivalry, which needs to end, obviously, because it should have ended at Hell in a Cell, but they needed to write Cody off in a sense, so Rollins hit him with the sledgehammer. There's unfinished business there now. Rollins versus Cody for the WWE Championship. McIntyre versus Gunther, which I think would be a hell of a matchup, would be my ideal opponent for Drew McIntyre if he were to win the Universal Championship at WrestleMania. Or there's the idea of Austin Theory cashing in, winning the Universal Championship, and defending it against John Cena at WrestleMania. All those ideas are great, especially the championship matches, and they're all ideas to get the titles off of Roman Reigns and go into WrestleMania versus The Rock non-title. And again, if him and The Rock does not happen and he defends one of the championships against Cody at WrestleMania, either merge those titles or have one of the, or just have the Survivor Series situation here where he has to just defend the Raw title, but he still holds the Universal title in the WrestleMania or something like that. However you want to put it. But point is, I think what I wrote down here and also came up with on the spot with that Austin Theory idea are great ideas, man. I don't want to see Roman just vacate the WWE title just because, you know, yeah, he's not on Raw or something like that, because him just handing over the WWE Championship doesn't feel like Roman Reigns to me. I just don't see that. And I do think, like, yeah, Roman probably shouldn't be pinned for both titles before WrestleMania. So if you can do a creative way to not have him lose twice, I think that's another idea as well. I know some people have thrown out the idea of you know, Roman defending both championships individually on night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania, but I don't want to see Roman lose one night and then go into the next night to fight The Rock. Does it hurt him in a sense? Obviously not. It's Roman Reigns. A loss isn't going to hurt him, but just so fast, like losing one match and then having to move into the other. You know, say if he lost the WWE Championship to Cody on night 1 and then went into night 2 to defend the Universal Championship. I just think we're moving too fast there. I just don't think that's my ideal situation. I think what I wrote out here, the ideas that I wrote out, the ideas that I came up with on the spot, my fantasy booking mind, I believe are the best ideas to take both championships off of Roman Reigns. And by the way, before we wrap up this video, we're talking a lot about The Rock, and you guys know, I'm wearing some Rock merch right now, and I was also at Walmart today, and I picked up a Zoa can, but not just a Zoa can, as you could see, one of the ones with Black Adam on it, the limited edition cans. I was hyped up, guys. I was marking out in the Walmart aisle. Zoa is my beverage of choice before a workout, whether it's the regular ones or the pre-workout ones. Always 0 sugar, though. We don't need that sugar. But I was hyped up, guys. The Black Adam can. Pumped up. But anyways, guys, those are my ideas for my fantasy booking on how to take the championships off of Roman Reigns before WrestleMania in a matchup against The Rock or not. Regardless of the sense, those are my ideas. Let me know yours down below in the comments section. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to support me, you can go check out the merch store down below, as well as hit the join button down below to become a channel member, receive some exclusive points. We're over this in every video. Did I say exclusive points? Exclusive perks. We go over this in every video. You guys know the deal by now. Help a boy out. Hit something down below. If you guys are wondering why I can't talk in this video, it's because I had half a cup of coffee before I started filming. And now I'm going to have the other half as I begin this edit. I can't talk today. Guys, thank you for checking out this video. Clearly, I need to wrap this up. I appreciate you guys watching it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.